Hello everyone, my name is Ben Griswold and I am an employee here at Donner Memorial State Park. I've been working here for roughly 2 years now and have spent a great deal of time and effort learning about what happened to the Donner Party here. However, what we are going to be discussing is what the Donner Party did wrong before they arrived here. We're going to be talking about the trials and tribulations that happened to them before their arrival. We'll start where they started, Independence, Missouri, go along the route that they followed, the infamous Hastings cutoff included, and then their final arrival at what is now known as Donner Lake. This presentation will take about 10 minutes in total, and all that I require of the audience is your attention and your willingness to save any questions you might have until the end of the presentation. If you're watching the recorded version of this, feel free to pause, play, fast forward, rewind. I promise you I won't mind. Feel free to use the restroom at any time. You're in your house, go for it. Make yourself a meal, make yourself a snack. However, we do ask if you're driving a vehicle or operating any kind of heavy machinery that you don't watch this while you're doing that. Turn it off, watch it later, turn the vehicle off, watch this. Either or. Now, we're going to be talking about how to avoid having all your plans fail and being forced to eat your friends, like some of our famous early pioneers. Now, we need to start where the Donner Party started, late. Independence, Missouri, 1846. The Donner Party was part of a 500-strong wagon train of wagons, much like this one behind me, heading to California. Now, you might be saying, Ben, that wagon is larger than my SUV. That can fit the whole family, right? Wrong. Wagons, purely for hauling. They hauled food, valuables, whatever they wanted to start their new lives, but not people. Unless you were deathly ill, you weren't riding in the wagon. Women, elderly, children, everyone hiked. Everyone walked alongside the wagon train. There were even accounts of people who were deathly ill not being allowed to ride in the wagon. In fact, some of them were just left on the side of the road if they didn't have super strong ties to the group they were traveling with. Now, this group of 500 wagons left a bit late in the season. Not terribly so, as you can tell, a great deal of people were leaving at this time. However, what quickly started happening was they started running into delays, bad weather, trouble with the Native Americans, etc., etc. They got a teeny bit more delayed each time. However, this did not necessarily spell disaster. In fact, it didn't for the other 480 wagons. And the mistake that was made was the Donner Party's next decision. They arrived, not at California, at a shortcut called the Hastings Cutoff, pioneered by a man named Lansford W. Hastings, who was an adventurer. And he published a book called The Immigrant's Guide to Oregon and California. And in this book, he had a shortcut called the Hastings Cutoff that he believed was the new route to California. If you took this route down through Utah, you would cut weeks, miles off your trip. However, what ended up happening was the Donner Party listened to him. That doesn't sound so bad. What they didn't listen to was other accounts, including one of a journalist named Edwin Bryant, who sent warnings that when he went through with his mule train, saying that this route is completely unfeasible for wagons. We don't know for sure if the Donner Party just never received these messages, or if somebody got them and hid them, or if they just ignored them entirely, but that didn't factor into the decision. What we do know is they received a warning from a man named James Clyman, who was a close friend of a party member named James Reed. They had served in the military together for many years and were as close as brothers, and James Clyman said, "You can't do this route in wagons. It's not feasible." They didn't listen. The people who did listen were overruled by the others. And so they decided this was the way that they were going to go. This was the way that was going to make their trip so much better. Now, They went on the Hastings Cutoff, and for the first few days, it wasn't even that bad. It was pretty smooth sailing by all accounts. However, they quickly arrived, and I often mispronounce this, at the Wasatch Range of the Rockies. This was not easy going. They were cutting through bushes, they were cutting through trees, they were making less than a mile of progress a day. In fact, I have a quote from a man named Louis Keseberg that says, "On the Hastings Cutoff, we were 28 days in going 21 miles. Difficulty and disaster hovered about us from the time we entered this cutoff." Louis Keseberg said that. If that's not a reason to turn around, I don't know what is. But they kept going. They pushed through. And lo and behold, they made it through the mountains. Yay! To the desert. Aww. In fact, the Great Salt Lake Desert of Utah. Now, they arrived at this desert and were told it would take 2 days and 2 nights to get through it. That wasn't what happened. A quote by a woman named Virginia Reed, the wife of James Reed, says, "The desert had been represented to us as only 40 miles wide, but we found it near 80. It was a dreary, desolate waste. Not a living thing could be seen." They made it through. They persevered. They lost a lot, though. They lost wagons, they lost valuables, they lost their self-respect, they lost animals, they lost liking each other. By the time they arrived at the other end of this desert and this mountain range, they were at each other's throats. There was a knife fight that resulted in a death and another member being exiled from the party. And so, after all this, they arrive at the foothills of another mountain range into California. And they decided to take a break at Donner Lake. And it wasn't just, oh, we'll just stop here for a second. They decided to stop and have a rest. And they weren't camping together at that point. They camped completely separately in 4 different sites because that was how much they were fed up with each other. Now, what happens after that is history. And if you want to learn that history, feel free to ask me or visit our lovely museum or read one of the fantastic books, anything that you'd like to do. So what have we learned? Hopefully, how to not eat your friends, but more accurately, we've learned not to be late and then not to gamble on making up time when your life's on the line. So, if you want to learn more about the subject I just told you about, or what happened next, there are some fantastic books available. We sell many of them in our gift shop, or if you just want to come into our museum, we'll be more than happy to tell you about it. Unfortunately, our exhibits are closed currently due to COVID, but hopefully they'll be open quite soon. Feel free to call us and inquire on whether it's open yet. If you want to learn more about the Donner Party through more videos, please like this video, visit our website, and leave positive feedback. If you have any questions, I'll be around for a little while longer, or if you're in the area of Truckee, feel free to stop by and ask for Ben Griswold or any other park employee, and any one of us will be happy to tell you about anything you want to know. Other than that, Donner Historical State Park, other than having fantastic historical interest, is a really beautiful place on the lake with fantastic views and fantastic forested areas, and we would love if you came and visited. Thank you all so much for coming. You've been a fantastic audience, and I'd love to have you all for dinner. I'll see you folks in the next video. Have a good one.